Hello. This is a game from the Fide Candidates Tournament 2018 featuring ARONIAN and Fabiano. This is round 7 of the Fide Candidates Tournament. So let's put an engine in here. Houdini is set to go, but change engines. Let's see. I don't have the latest brainfish, but let's stick that in. BMI2 brainfish. Switching engines. Then we're going to change the amount of CPUs used from 4 to 8, hyper-threaded at 8. Let's change this to 8. Okay. This is round 7, in which Caruana won this game. Infinite analysis. Okay, let's add one more line there. Alright. And here we go. Oh, I also want let's go to view. Where is it? Status. I do have status bar. Status bar. Okay, that'll tell us the opening and everything. Alright, here we go. D4, knight F6, C4, E6, knight F3, D5, knight C3. This is a queen's gambit declined. D takes, E4. This was an interesting game. Let's activate the book also, so we'll see which move was the most popular. Bishop B4. Bishop G5. Let me go back notation. H6, attacking the bishop. Bishop takes, queen takes, and bishop takes C4. The pawn is returned, and it's basically equal at this point. C5, attacking the center. Castles. Black plays C takes, D4. He also could have castled. C takes. And white does not capture right away. Well, that wouldn't be good. Let's see. White plays E5, attacking the queen. And that is one of the options. What happens here? Captures right away. The best move is castles. Let's see why. Then rook C1 or queen B3. Knight. Well, actually rook D8. What would have happened if takes castle, then knight moves, knight here maybe. Well, then bishop takes, pawn takes, and queen takes. So the knight is basically pinned. You can't play knight back, knight retreat. So we have knight takes, and he can castle here. And the best move, simply play queen to B3 instead of rook C1. Queen here. If queen takes bishop on B4. But in any event, okay, I see. In any event, black would be better. And let's see, 4, 6, 3, 6. Okay. So we go. C takes E5 instead of taking the pawn, which is, as we've discovered, taking the pawn is not optimal. Queen D8. Knight e4. Castles. Queen e2. Bishop retreats. Yeah, you could have played knight c6 also, developed the knight. Black would have been okay going here also. Then rook a c1, taking control of the c file. But we have queen e2, bishop retreats, bishop back, covering f6, rook a d1, attacking the pawn again. That pawn is good as gone. Queen c7, and what do we see? Computers like queen a5, but queen c7, bishop back, knight d7. Here I like probably rook c1 attacking the queen. Computers like knight g3, where would the knight relocate? Knight c5, and knight takes d4. But he played rook c1. He did eventually, hitting the queen, which is more favorable for black actually. Queen a5. Now this g4 is questionable. That was not the best move, of course. Computers disagree with this move completely. Yeah, queen of g4 was not good. Well, it's opening up the king also. So we could play knight takes e5, but let's see what other move. Like I said, knight g3. Computers like that, and it's still holding on to e5. Wow, he's a pawn down right now. Still a pawn down. But g4, so knight takes, queen takes, then f4. So what white wants to do is just advance on the king side to try to create some type of counterplay against the king at this point. But white's king, at the expense of white's king, is exposed. He's loosening up the protection around the king. So we have the queen retreats, queen a5, then g5. Queen of d8, but computers like simply to move the king out the way. King to h8. Queen d8. Yeah, simply king over right here would hold black's advantage. And black is up a pawn. Actually 2 pawns, I'm sorry. Queen d8, h4. Hold on, yeah. 6. What do we have here? 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 2 pawns. Bishop d7. G takes, and then g6. It's interesting. Also, h4 is attacked at this point. So white figured he's trying to open up the king side. h5. This was an interesting game. King h8, king h2, bishop c6. Today, this was, of course, the most, I think, the most interesting game from the candidates today, the 18th of March, round 7. Bishop c6, and we have rook f3, which was a mistake. Rook f2 was the best move in this situation. Rook here, and white wouldn't have been so bad. White would have still been holding on. However, rook f3, the rook is in the line of fire of the bishop here on c6. Here, well, this allows the threat of, this allows this move, which black did not play, queen of d5, threatening to take here. Because if h takes, queen here, king moves, and then f takes, and black has a big advantage. But going back, well, if we play queen d5 again, well, rook h3 should be the move. Instead of rook h3 in this position is the best move. But then comes rook to g8. Then rook to g1, then g5. That's very interesting. Rook to g1, then computers like g5. Because if he takes, oh yeah, that's disastrous. Can't take knight because because rook takes, then mate. Well, I'm sorry, no, rook takes, oh, queen takes. That's not mate because king go to g3. So it would be rook takes, not here. Then king to g3, and he escapes, which I missed. Then simply queen takes. With an overwhelming advantage. Wow. What if rook there, then queen there. Rook here, then queen to f4. Right. And then a rook comes over with king there. King there, rook g8. But we go, but so we have bishop c6, rook f3. Then instead of bishop d6, he could have played queen to d5. That was the whole point of rook to f3 being a bad move because of queen to d5, then threatening queen come over, queen takes. So black plays bishop to d6 instead of queen d5. So bishop d6, queen to f2, bishop c7. Now here he should have just taken the d6 knight. Our bishop knight takes d6. Well, king to h3. Just say king h3. King h3 was the best. Knight d6 was an option. Also, knight takes d6. I would have probably taken the bishop off. Queen to f2. That's why he retreats that bishop, because he wants to keep that bishop for the attack. f4 is pinned. King h3. Queen to e7. Believe it or not, even in this situation, white isn't lost. It's almost even. Now this move was a mistake. Knight g5 was a mistake. So here rook to g1 was satisfactory. Rook to g1 would have kept everything in order. Here rook g1, that would have kept the game going. Perhaps rook g8. Then they say, computers say double on g. But instead we have this wild move here, knight g5. But black didn't capitalize on that immediately, because computer says g takes h5 would have been decisive. Here was the correct response. Then rook g3, then e5. Then rook e1, then rook a e8. The point is the situation of white's king and these two bishops, which are slicing the king, looking right at the king side. I mean, we have basically pawn takes, and he gets e takes f, and it's over. The bishops are just slicing away. So we go back. So he didn't capitalize. He played e5 instead of g takes h5. Rook takes c6. B takes. Pretty good move here. Knight takes f7. Actually, I mean, at this point, white isn't completely lost. So we have knight takes, check. Hold on, let's go back one. Yeah, that's the best move. Well, knight takes, rook takes, because he has all of these pawns on the king side, and they're surrounding the king. They look pretty ominous. So we have knight takes, rook takes, then h takes. That's the whole point. I thought rook takes f4. Yeah, rook takes f4 was the best alternative. Here was the best move. But you'll get rook takes, e takes. And believe it or not, I mean, white still isn't. He's down a piece, but he has these two pawns, which can wreak havoc against the king here, which looks like black may have to sacrifice a bishop or something to get rid of one of these two pawns. But then we have queen takes, then queen to e5. Then here, king over. I don't think he wants to. Right, of course, he doesn't want to exchange queens, because then he'll definitely have two pieces, two solid pieces to one. You want to leave the queen on the board. Bishop here, king here, which is forced. Then queen there, getting the queen out the way, keeping these two, and you have these two pawns, which keeps the pressure on black, and which keeps the game going. But where h takes, okay, let's go back. Then rook f6, g7. Computer says it's all even right here. I mean, Aronian did pretty well up to this point. I believe time pressure was setting in at this point. But Aronian, yeah, he was doing pretty good. Then king over. Now this is the mistake here. Bishop here check was a blunder of sorts. It was a blunder. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, under time pressure, it's really hard to see that's not a good move. That's a blunder. But computer likes here queen there, and they say it's dead even. And queen to e6 check. I mean, this is a complex position at this point. It is really fascinating. Because it looks like, yeah, he gets this move in. King takes. But a queen. Rook takes. Rook there, check. No, not here, because he'll lose a piece. And so that's fascinating. Rook here. But remember, the queen is still pinned. Then rook takes. That's right, the queen here. Then you got to take here. He takes here. Then he takes here, and king takes. Out of that whole variation, the computer says it's dead even Although I like the number of pawns on this side, on the queen side here. But we have opposite colored bishops. But it looks, although it looks to be winning for black, but it's dead even. Because yeah, opposite colored bishops, and this pawn is permanently placed here on G6. Black will always have to tend to this pawn on G6. Yes, no way the king could get loose. Could come here to E6 because of the advancement of the pawn. The queening square is a white square, whereas this is a dark square bishop. So that pawn on G6 will always have black preoccupied. So it's dead even, this position. Again, they were in time pressure here. So the correct variant, like Queen Air, would have been brilliant. Even still, it's hard for a human to see all of that. Like I said, this is a complex position. Any mistake, any wrong move by even black, and he's done because of these two pawns. Any incorrect move. I mean, in other words, it's easy for black to blunder here in this position, to go astray. Because H7 check, when the time comes, that H7 check could be devastating. So, we have bishop here, which is a blunder. King there. Then he plays queen. Had he played queen H4 first, might have got a brilliancy. So, king here, queen H4. Computer likes queen D6, but E4, which is just as good. E4, attacking a rook. Because now the pawns are locked. There's no future for them right now. Queen could take and be up a piece. He's still up. He's up a piece. So the problem is white doesn't have anything to show for the piece because of these two pawns cannot make progress. If he queens, he's still going to be down a piece after he takes. Bishop takes. King takes. Rook G3. Now he's threatening to win the piece back. But black correctly, and this is a difficult position still. So yes, rook to G3, he's going to get his piece back. Bishop takes, attacking the rook. It's amazing that white is still not making any white is still lost because, well, the point is rook takes H6, pinning the queen eventually. So queen check, rook takes, bishop takes check, king moves. I mean, this is fascinating. What if I can't? Yeah, then rook takes. If queen there, rook takes, king to G2, then bishop takes. Yeah, if he goes queen there, then king there, then bishop takes. Well, he's and then he has these two pawns here that he can advance, and he's up the exchange. That's fascinating. And he has mate and 13 in this position. I was just looking at queen to G4. But rook G7, which is the best move. One of the, top move. Well, which is, see. Yeah, it's one of the best moves. Rook G7. And he simply moves the queen out the way, queen to F8. Let's see what the threat. Here it's over. But yeah, the threat is rook takes H6. With a double whammy, which would attack the rook and the queen. If the king can't move. King moves, we still take. And still attacking. You still lose a piece. So simply queen to F8. and white resigned. So this is a fascinating game. Had he played queen of h4 first, here, in this position, queen air may have saved the game. And it would have been one brilliant... It still is a good game. Still is a brilliant game. But it would have been brilliant play from Aronian. But they both did play brilliantly throughout because even in time pressure, they made some pretty good moves. So that's Aronian-Caruana game, round 7 of the candidates. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.